Of the many fan bases I've been a part of, Adventure Time sits at a high pedestal because I would call it a special case of sorts. Unlike anything I've enjoyed through my years, I've been with Adventure Time from the time it got out the gates. Before the first official episode even aired, I just found it charming, the cutesy art style that would eventually take over the scene for better or for worse. The promo videos of a hyperactive child in a public area, gauging the people's reaction to the absurdity of the situation similarly to a Mega 64 video. And the thing that cemented my love for the title for me, a free episode, Trouble in Lumpy Space, the second official one, available to keep before the first episode even aired on TV. You can bet I watched it over and over. From these three initial impressions, I thought I knew what I was in for. A 15-minute, so random trip that matched the internet culture of 2010, which will prove itself to be unexpectedly self-evolutionary within the years. Here's to Adventure Time, a shining example and benchmark for this decade's American animated storytelling. More than a show, a community, a shining example of the times and an allegory for the coming of age. As we say goodbye to an era, let us look back to see how much has changed, shall we? Like many TV shows, Adventure Time's first season was more of the time to find its identity, nothing too ambitious at all. The stories told within the episodes included finding a whole bunch of businessmen trapped within an iceberg and causing problems while really wanting to help with their hyper efficiency. The titular characters Finn and Jake having to take care of a strange creature, acting like mothers which are a foreign concept to them, overcoming a fear of the ocean, trying to please everyone and failing, etc. You get the point. The first season was a comfort zone, simple plots being used to either create filler entertainment akin to commercial bumpers or to introduce side characters like Marceline's Evicted or Tree Trunks' Tree Trunks, and understandably so. This is merely the first season, most viewers just dipping their toes in the water. That is Adventure Time, and being caught in a complicated, ongoing plot can be a deal breaker for a first impression. But what wowed me was the second season, and I was in the middle of my fanbase fever, and the unique concepts that I'll mention soon cemented the craze. Season 2 is when it got real. From the very first episode it came from the Nightosphere. We were given the flavor that the series will keep feeding us until its eventual end in this year. An unexpected feeling of peril, where a near-death experience happens every other episode, as well as a focus that wasn't on the two main characters. One would think Adventure Time with Finn and Jake will focus on Finn and Jake, no? Well, some episodes won't even feature the two, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Besides the focus on side characters, one thing that will stick with the viewers in this season is continuity. Episodes no longer serve as single entities, throwing away the experience for the next. It becomes like a telltale game. Experiences matter, and characters remember what they've learned in their past adventures. Characters grow in age, bonds increase or break. The lore of what was first thought to be a captured acid trip actually becomes a more fleshed out and dark storyline. At this point, it's not much of a cartoon anymore. It was a novella in Technicolor. To truly explain what set AT apart from the other cartoons at the time, I must warn that there will be spoilers. If you wish, you can skip to the next subject at the time on the screen. Now that's out of the way, I can finally tell you that Season 2 was wild. Everything changed, both between characters and within themselves. Puberty kicks in. I'm not making this up. Let me explain a list of things that changed in this time. So Rainicorn and Jake's relationship goes further, where he meets her parents and her parents. Finn ages and turns 13, and previously mentioned teenage awkwardness, tries to impress Princess Bubblegum and fails in multiple accounts, and To Cut a Woman's Hair, The Real You, and Death in Bloom. Characters, change clothes. Then Finn meets another human, a seemingly long extinct species, and finds out that Ooo is actually Earth after a nuclear war. And finally, the relationship of Bubblegum and Finn is tested in a friggin' epic two-part finale that I overwatched, where Bubblegum almost dies and returns to youth, making their relationship almost seem possible. What a way to end a season. The blogs and forums absolutely blew up after that, and nothing can come close besides, of course, this ending and the second season of the next fanbase I'll take part in. But I'll make a video of that once the series eventually ends, sure of that. That brings me to the next and even more culturally important subject, the gender-based new concept that Adventure Time brought to the table. Rule 63. Not 34, 63. In a nutshell, gender bend. Non-canonical episodes which feature the same exact universe but characters being the opposite gender than they are in the real episodes. Finn is a girl named Fiona, Marceline is Marshall, and Princess Bubblegum is a prince. Me and the internet exploded when they heard this concept being tested out because it was so new, so experimental, which leads me to the next testament of the show, its culture. Now, Adventure Time was the first actual fan base where I witnessed so much fan content posted online. The actual base, rather than just fans. Of course, you had your fan art, writings, and music generally rooted in Tumblr, but this era was a lot more tame than that of Steven Universe, I promise. Despite what I've mentioned about the dark eras in fandom, I can't recall one for good old AT. The fan art I've seen were epics and movie posters akin to actual title cards, shippings, and all that jazz. There were official fan art pages set up by the man Pendleton himself, and key producers such as Adam Mutto and Rebecca Sugar who would go on to make Steven Universe, having their own Tumblrs, and even starting up there. The worst fanfic I've personally read was of Finn and Marceline, where it went into detail about their date and how they made out tongues fighting for dominance. Sure, it was cheesy, but it wasn't a Dipper goes to Taco Bell. Don't read that, by the way. But all the worst for the AT fandom doesn't match the things I've created. Interesting story. The episode where Finn ages for the first time, Mystery Train, aired right after my 13th birthday. You know what that means. Yeah, cringy fan art of a self-insert and Finn hanging out. Yay! Sadly, a year after the second season's finale, I carry myself and my cringy art to my next interest. Perhaps it was the decision to immediately retcon the series' changing twist that made me change my mind. Or perhaps it was my teenage experimentalism. This didn't exactly make me forget the importance of AT. I still have a poster up in my room, and I would check in on a random episode and immediately feel absolutely lost. From the second season, it was ever upward from there. Finn continued to age, characters developed further, more relationships broke, Jake pulls a donkey from Shrek, and to my luck, episodes can be totally unrelated to the main plot. The Grable series, for example, are a set of interactive narratives, like a big kid version of Blue's Clues. Those are got. Then there were even more specials like the Islands arc, and the eventual finale in which I had to blindly jump into, despite my confusion. Staring at the screen, I realized this was it. The end, 8 years in the making. Unlike finales such as Futurama's, the closure that was presented was a lot less of a closure and more like a consolation. Sort of like a good friend who comforts you when you're confused, despite them being as confused as you are. A major plot point left unexplained. Unignorable bomb-related one explained prior. 2 new characters that were just introduced, a copy and paste of Finn and Jake, complete with their youthful enthusiasm they started the series with. Heck, I can actually say that the finale leaves viewers with more questions as before, which may very well just be the point. Given what I've come to know Adventure Time by, life comes at you fast. We make humble beginnings, and before we know it, we grow old. 10 years, an entire decade passes between episode 1 to episode 283, with problems solved and even more new ones either left to be answered or forgotten about altogether. The universe will continue to breathe beyond our canonical knowledge. Maybe the characters within that universe will symbolically grow old as we do, leaving the next adventures to the upcoming generation. The half-cocked Shermie and Beth may seem as such from the start, but didn't Finn and Jake? Basically, the whole essence of the show is that life is a cycle. I've realized something amazing about this series and my experience with it. Its raw nature. As I scrolled past the comments of the finale song's video, I found that there were many people like me, sharing one nostalgia, many of us being tweens from its inception, youthful like the nature of the first season, awkward at our teens like in the second season, fully grown after 8 years, and still growing after the finale's open ending. Even if our adventures get more complicated through the years just as Finn's have, we seek a time of peace, like as seen in the conclusion. Life goes on and the next generation is there to experience the adventures we loved ourselves in different forms. Closure in a symbolic way. Another decade leaves a few more questions asked, and some left without answers, as it should be. Thank you, Pendleton and the rest of the Adventure Time team at Frederator, for not just creating a show to love, but also having all the Adventure Time fans share adventures we all embark on personally.